Hello everyone, I'm Leo Ding, one of the founders of Red Cat Motion Studio. We produce creative stories with animation. With an online course, you can make similar shorts like this. Welcome to my motion graphics.
I don't know why you think that you could help me when you couldn't get by yourself.
Okay, let's switch to After Effects. This part will be more exciting than the layer separation part. From my observation, many of you take a long time to separate layers. Before separating layers, you should think about what parts you would animate and how. Some parts you don't need to animate, then you don't have to separate. Or there are things that you should animate, you forgot to separate, then your artwork flow will be affected. You have to return to Illustrator to fix and then readjust in After Effects. It will waste a lot of time. Therefore, in order to save time before you work, you need to think about what you will be animating. From there, you know how you should separate your layers. Before we start, let me say something interesting about this project is that it has music, meaning we'll be synchronizing this animation along a music track. So here I choose the song It's a Beautiful Day by Michael Bublé, one of my favorite songs. In our two scenes, we have the part I don't know why you think that corresponding to this video. You can see that they also use typography in it. Timing correctly with this video seems quite hard, so I have already made a template. I named it Beautiful Day Morphing Template. When you download this template project, you see that there is an AEP file, as well as a music video scene like this, so that you can sync along. I will set the length of the clip to about 5 seconds, but actually this part only happens in about 3.5 seconds. You can see that in just 3.5 seconds, we have quite a heavy workload, not easy at all. If you hold Control key and drag the mouse cursor along the timeline, you can listen to the soundtrack. Now, when you download the project folder, you have the following files. First is the Illustrator file, second is the template, and the song is A Beautiful Day. When you open it up, you can see that I have already put the song here, as well as adjusted the volume with these keyframes, so that it is convenient for you to work with. In the composition setting, I also configure for you. Our video's resolution will be Full HD, and the pixel ratio is square. Frame rate is 25, duration is 5 seconds, and background is black. So you just need to use this template for the sake of following the tutorial. Back to our After Effects, this is the sample that I have done. Zoom in a little bit and you can understand what needs to be animated. As you can see on the screen, I set the resolution to third to relieve the computer. First, you can see that there is a sun appearing quite spontaneously. Second, the clouds moving subtly. And then we have the character fishing. You can see that his rod is swinging. The boat is floating gently. There's the character's head falling from above. We have the waves on the screen like this, and we also have the text I don't know why it appear. Did you notice that I have also changed the color for the text I don't know why? When the sea surface rises, our boat also flips over to turn into a car like this. When it flips over, the yellow hull morphs into the car frame. You can also see that there is the car roof protruding from the car body, and at the same time the window also pops up. We also have the wheels bounce up to make it more interesting. And then we have the dog falling into the car. The character also falls into the car. Other features such as the lights or the doors also appear. And then from the rear, the car releases the fumes and moves. In addition, don't forget that the background is moving too, such as the city rising up. The Bitexco and Vincom building also appears. The sun reappears, the clouds pops up, the text you think that also pops up. and all these motions are synced along the track. Wherever the lyrics go, these texts appear accordingly. So you can see that in the duration of just 3.5 seconds, you have to perform quite a lot of motions. Our workload will be pretty heavy and not light at all. So let's start. I'll still give this sample. Once in a while, I'll refer to it to see if you are missing anything. First, I will go to File, Import, and select the file that we have just separated layers. Remember to separate layers yourself. I will not do that for you, so that you can form the habit of separating layers. After a while, we work faster and more efficiently. When we import, I will set it as composition, layer size, and click OK. And then you have a file like this. It's a beautiful day morphing layer. If you do exactly as I instructed, then we will not be missing any files. In here we have a folder that contains lots of our Illustrator files. One tip to manage your files so that you can find them easily is to name our main composition as main. I have also shared on my personal Facebook about how to organize assets. You can check it out on my notes in Facebook, where there is an article on that. Now in this 15 weeks tutorial series, I will also mention about it. Soon I will share you about how to organize your files so that if you have a lengthy project like 60 minutes, think about it. If your assets are disorganized, then your project will be messy. Okay, one of the very important things in the beginning is grouping together the objects that we'll be animating. For example, hitting my eyes is the text I don't know why. I will pre-comp it. I select these 4 layers and right-click, choose Pre-compose. Here I rename them I don't know why. Okay, I hide them away. Likewise, we also have you think that. You see, if we name our files sensibly, we will identify them in here much more easily. I also pre-comped and rename you think that. Okay, I also hide them away. Here we have this layer 1. There are objects that we will be animating later. I will also hide them all, such as the layers relating to the car. I will hide them for now. Or the city, car, or the dog. I will select and hide them all. Bitexco, Vincom, and the windows, I will also hide. I will only leave what relating to our first scene, which is the character and the text I don't know why. In the previous tutorials, I have told you that when you pre-comp, you can see that the composition's borders take up the whole frame and thus make it hard for us to select. To make the border just surround the text, I don't know why. Then here on our switches panel, you click on this icon, Collapse Transformation, that looks like a buzzsaw. When you click on it, After Effects will take all the attributions inside the comp I don't know why out here for the main comp. Then you can select I don't know why text easily. If you don't toggle it on, you can see that the bounding box will cover the whole frame. On the other hand, I hear from some that when they use Mac OS, then the aforementioned step won't work. Even if they have toggled the saw, the bounding box still covers all the frame. There is a more simple solution if you still have this issue, which is selecting the rectangle tool and draw a mask on it like this. And then you can easily select it. So try whichever works for you. If you click on Collapse Transformation and see it doesn't work, try the other way. Now, I will hide whatever relating to the previous composition. Drag it to the top. We don't need it now. I will hide it. I will now animate the sun first. Click on the time slider. I select the sunbeam and the sun. Right click, choose Pre-comp. Here I will name the sun. And don't forget to turn on collapse transformation. Inside, I will hide the sunbeam. With the sun, I will right-click and select Create Shape from Vector Layer. Delete the sun. For the sun outlines, in the previous tutorials, I have shared about Shape Layer. So if you are not familiar with Shape Layer, you could go back to the second week tutorial to follow. Here I will select Add Trim Path, go to Trim Path, select End. I will drag it to, let's say, about 20 frames. With End, I will set to 0. At the same time, I will press R to display rotation. Press U to display all the keyframes. I drag this keyframe to frame 20, corresponding to this end property. I rotate it to around 160 degrees. I select all, right-click, keyframe assistant, choose Easy Ease, and here I will select 2 points at the bottom. For the graph, you have set it as Edit Speed Graph. Then you can have a graph like this. Drag it inside so you can improve the smoothness for our motion. Then you have a motion like this. Up next, I will animate the sunbeam. With the sunbeam, it is quite simple, just as in the tutorial I have shared with you about Shape Layer. On the screen, I will choose Grid and Guide option and turn on Title Action Safe. Here I choose Pen Tool and I draw a path like this, right in the center of the screen, and follow along the center point. Here I display content, choose Shape, select the path, click the stopwatch, drag the keyframe to around the 10-second mark. This is about frame 8. It's up to you, there's no need to be exact here. There, I will select the first point on our path and drag it to the bottom. I move back to frame 8. And at around frame 15, I drag the bottom point up so that it appears and then go away. I will select all the keyframes, choose Easy Ease, then go into our graph, and then drag both ends like this. Let's see the motion we have here. Something I forgot, remember to turn off the fill and set the stroke color to white. Set it to 20, and then you got a motion like this. The motion is not very smooth, so I select the middle point and drag it up like this. Now I have just finished the beam. Next I will select Add and choose Repeater. In the repeater, I will set copy to 7. In the transform position, I will set the X value to 0. And rotation will be like this. Just rotate it until you achieve the randomness that you want. I click on the rotation stopwatch icon at this moment. At the start, I will also rotate it a bit, say 158 degrees. If you follow my previous tutorials, you know that I have shared with you an expression called kinetic expression. This kinetic expression can be applied to a lot of parameters so that we can generate bounciness and vibration for our motion. In the project folder, I also included it for you. Just copy all the expression, go back to After Effects. At the rotation property, hold the alternate key on your keyboard, and then click on the stopwatch. This will allow you to write expressions. Press Ctrl V to paste the expression into this frame. Then you have an effect like this. You can see that the sunbeams shake a little bit. By the way, our sunbeams will not disappear. They just appear, so I delete the last keyframe. Then you have a motion like this. The further you drag this keyframe, the less bouncy it gets. Our sunbeam is a little bit too long, so I shorten it. And then I move it to our original sun. I delete the old sunbeam. Let's watch. Remember to move it following this guide. If you feel that your sunbeam is either too long or unbalanced, then you readjust. I move it back for about 2 frames, and we have just finished the motion for the sun. After doing the sunbeam, I will do the motion for our waves. I will select the wave, right-click and choose Precomp. I will name it Wave. Here, I will reconfigure our composition a bit. Composition setting, I set the width to 1920. For the height, it is 150, like this. I choose our waves, right-click, select Create Shape from Vector Layer, remove the old one. Here we have a little trick. Just as we previously do with the sunbeam, I will make each of them appear and then go out. So in the content, I will click Show All, select Path, and keyframe the path for all. However, the option is too long and it's hard to select, so you just select the layer and press U to shorten it. Select all the keyframes, move them to the middle like this. Here I will make each of the waves go in and go out, like I've done to the sunbeam. Select the first point and move it like this. At 1 second, I will make them disappear. At first, we will make everything move at the same pace to ease the workflow. Whether they should move fast or slow, we adjust the timing later. I select all the keyframes, right-click, choose Keyframe Assistant, and select Easy Ease. Go into Graph Editor, I will select all these points and move them. That way, we have created a smooth motion for our waves. Depending on the waves, if it is too long, then you should lengthen your timing. If it is short, then we shorten the keyframe distance. Doing so, we generate a sense of randomness. Meanwhile, we move the wave layer so that they do not appear simultaneously, but randomly instead. So you can just rearrange them at your will, and you can have an effect like this. If you see that it is still too fast, then we select all the keyframes and just drag them. You can notice that when the waves not yet appear, we have these white spots like these. We will deal with this by displaying all their contents. For example, this one here, you go into Transform, choose Opacity. At this keyframe, I will set at 100, but the previous one would be 0. This is one of the tricks to hide it. Likewise, you will do the same for the other ones. Opacity, like this. There is no need to do the first one. Remember to make their last points disappear as well. Like this. Remember to do this thoroughly. Sometimes when you work with a lot of these properties, you might get confused because you don't know where you are at. After we are done, I trim it. You go to the last keyframe, hold the Alt key, and press the square bracket keys. If it's the bracket to the right, then we trim it to the right. We have just finished only a wave, so now we will duplicate it. Select the layer, press Ctrl D. This time we will copy them and move them around randomly like this, so that we can generate a sense of randomness for our waves. Randomness makes everything seem more natural. Like this. You have just animated a wave. Okay, so we have just finished with one wave. You can copy again. Ctrl D, spread them out on our timeline. Back to our main composition. Here is a wave. I will also toggle the saw. I press T to display opacity. Here I will set it to around 50%. Still is too much, so I set it down to 30. So we're done with the movement of the waves, and I will hide it away. There are two clouds here. I think I will animate them before animating the text. I don't know why. I select the two clouds, press P on the keyboard, click keyframe, keep this position. At the last frames, I drag it to the right like this. Do you notice that when you move, you have this motion path like this? Here there are empty boxes. These are the starting and end positions of the cloud. You can select and drag it. This means that we don't have to drag our time slider to the first keyframe to move. Instead, we can move it directly like this. If you click here, you can see the end point and you can move it as well. I drag it to the side a bit to make it balanced. One advantage of an animator with graphic design background is that you can be proactive on the layout without depending on other designers. That's why I always advise those who want to pursue this animation field to focus more on design theory, on layout, and on animation. The clouds do not move fast, so you adjust its position until you are satisfied. So we're done with the clouds movements. I will also hide it.